News, views, voices of the global Indian community. India abroad.
Sanjeev 15 years back when I was in Infosys, but our real engagement began in March of 2017 when we first heard about Echo and its ability to spread diffusion of knowledge through the platform. I was intrigued by the fact that they had built this thing, and we felt that maybe with a little bit of tweaking on the technology side of it, it would actually reach a very large scale. And I think they've accomplished that by impacting the lives of 1 billion people so far, and I think the goal is to get to 2 billion people by 2030. So it's really a transformational large-scale initiative. I was attracted because my own background is building these kind of large-scale platforms. I was involved with the design and building of Aadhar, which is the digital ID in India. I did this when I left my job in Infosys, my nice corner office, and went to work in the government without a salary and with no staff and no budgets in July of 2009, and we built an ID platform which now is at 1.3 billion people have the ID. It's a digital ID which can be verified online. So it's verified online about 80 million times a day. So it's used, it's very ubiquitous in its usage, everyone is using it. And on top of that, we built what is called as the KYC capability, which is Know Your Customer, which then accelerated the opening of bank accounts and mobile connections. And so we have now the world's largest financial inclusion program with 700 million people having an Aadhar-linked bank account, on top of which is the world's largest direct cash transfer program. So the last 15 years, about $400 billion has been transferred directly into bank accounts for various welfare programs, emergency funding, climate financing, whatever. The same infrastructure was used by the mobile industry to make mobile phones ubiquitous. When Jio was launched in 2016, they used Aadhar to enroll 100 million customers, and today, smartphones and other things have become ubiquitous. So basically, this whole idea was if everybody has a digital ID, everybody has a bank account, everybody has a mobile phone, then everything else we can build on top of that. So that was the philosophy of Aadhar, and it's also had other benefits. It has eliminated wastage and graft in transfer of benefits. So money goes directly into people's bank accounts. It has done gender empowerment because many women are directly getting money into their bank accounts. It has helped in climate change because we have removed the fuel subsidy from the price of the cylinder to making it a cash transfer, which means tomorrow you can stop giving the cash transfer for the fuel and give it for solar or something like that. So there are many spin-off benefits of this infrastructure that we created. Subsequently, in 2016, I worked with NPCI. NPCI is the National Payment Corporation of India, which is the payment company of India, and we built a brand new payment system called UPI, Unified Payment Interface, which is a real-time payment system, which is now the largest digital payment system in the world. It does about 13 billion transactions a month, so close to 500 million a day. It has 500 million people who use it, and it has 50 million merchants where you can make payments with it. So that has become again very ubiquitous and has become a source of empowerment for small merchants, vegetable sellers, coconut sellers, and so on. And on that we are now building a data infrastructure. So unlike data getting captured by a few companies or by the government, the data infrastructure we have built, the data comes to the individual or the business itself, and then they can take that data, which we call as digital capital, and we can then can be used for getting loans and so on. So it's really flipping the whole idea of how data can be used by people for their own benefit as opposed to accumulated by a few companies. Yeah. Similarly, during the pandemic, one of the foundations that support eGov built the vaccination certificate in India. It's the world's largest used vaccination certificate. 2 billion copies of vaccination certificates have been issued on that in 6 countries. So it's again, so I think my point is that a lot of the work I've done is how do we do things at population or global scale. So we made sure, for example, when we issued Aadhar, that nobody could be denied an Aadhar because they didn't have a birth certificate. We gave them a date of birth. If they didn't have an address, they could give an address saying I live on the pavement and that was acceptable and so on. So idea was that nobody should be left behind and everybody should get ID. Similarly, ID was then the basis for everybody getting a bank account or a mobile connection. And you may wonder why is ID such a big deal? Because if you live in America and everybody born here gets a birth certificate in the hospital that they are born, then that's the proof of existence. I mean, of course, nowadays even that is disputed, but that's a different matter. But in India, when a baby is born in a village, there is often no birth certificate because it's born at home and there is no incentive to get the birth certificate. Maybe you have to pay someone to get a birth certificate. It's all very complicated. So in many Indian states, half the people don't have birth certificates. And not having an ID is all right if you live your entire life in the same village, but if you're traveling, going to the city, getting a job, you need to show, riding a bus, everything needs ID. So that's why the ID was a very inclusive idea. Similarly, payments, we made sure that people who had smartphones could use payments, people who had feature phones could use payments, and people who had no phones could use payments. So it was not just for a few people, but for a billion people. So I think, and it's also about designing it at low cost, because you want to be able to do billions of transactions at very low cost. It's about small sachet size of transactions. And many of these principles are there in the Echo and the iEcho platform, which is how do we deliver at scale using very low cost infrastructure.